So welcome, Liz, Joe and Andrew. Together you form the little company of Calm based in Sunderland, UK. Lovely to see you all. So before we launch into the main questions, I have one starter question for you, and that is, what's one thing bringing you joy right now?
For me, the one thing that constantly brings me joy is nature. And it was lovely being out for a walk yesterday, even though the weather wasn't very good. Just being out was really nice.
For me, more immediate, what brought me joy today was I did walk here to Joe's house. He made me a lovely cup of Earl Grey tea, and it was nice to get my hands around the cup and feel the warmth, and then take that first sip of tea of the day. And just as it goes down the throat, and it gives you that lovely warm feeling.
And for me, it's just sitting on this settee, believe it or not. We're not normally together in this way, So it's nice to share some space with the guys.
Fantastic. So in this podcast, I really want to explore your teaching practice, your philosophy behind everything that you do together. I wonder if you could start individually, just telling us a little bit about your own journeys into meditation.
For me, it was finding this book that you'll hear a little bit about, Finding Peace in a Frantic World. For most of my life, really, I've had really poor sleep patterns and also an amount of anxiety along the way as well. And this book really brought something new into my life. It gave me a nice structured way of learning, and that led to the teaching path. Joined the guys with the little company of Calm, and I went to Bangor Uni. Did the TTR1 and then the TTR2, and that's how I'm able to sit here talking about it to you now, Michael.
Great. Thank you, Joe.
Okay. For me, the journey started in a similar way to Joe. Mine was a little bit more random. I just happened to be in Waterstones one day and saw this book, Finding Peace in a Frantic World. And I thought, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting, because that was my world at the time. Very busy job, home life, social life. So picked it up, thought it was a really good read. But like a lot of good books, put it down to one side. And then by chance bumped into Joe, and I mentioned about this book. And Joe said, oh, I'm about to run a course on this. So I said, great, put me down for it. So I did the course, really enjoyed it, found a lot of meaning, a lot of depth in that. And then I had another conversation with Joe and said, I would be interested in taking it a little bit further. So Joe said, oh, if you wanted to, there's a course in your hometown at Oxford. So did that, really enjoyed it. Then volunteered with Joe to deliver some courses. And then we decided that we would set up the little company of Calm. Liz came on board. And really since there, my mindfulness journey has developed. Got into delivering mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, mindfulness-based stress reduction, and the other programs that we deliver. So that's how my mindfulness journey started and where we are at the moment.
Lovely.
And my journey started in a similar fashion through finding peace in a frantic world. But just to give it some context, my dad had recently died, and I was caring for my mum who had Alzheimer's, and I was working full time. And I really did feel at the time I was just chasing my tail. And there on the notice board at work was Finding Peace in a Frantic World, and the title just struck a note with me. So I signed up, and it was Joe who was delivering it. I think Andrew as well, actually. And from that moment, I found it very practical. The repetition within the course helped me get into a really good personal mindfulness practice. And I just wanted to do more. So I did MBSR and then worked with Joe to help teach. And then we set up the little company of Calm. And my area of interest is self-compassion and also working within communities. And sometimes that might be doing taster sessions on mindfulness in nature, as well as the longer courses as well.
Lovely. It sounds like you were meant to come together.
Mm.
We were
Yeah.
to find peace
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
frantic worlds.
Yeah. And to kind of ask you individually, what surprised you most when you started practicing?
For me, it was the first couple of times I took myself through the Frantic World 8-week program. My mother at the time was very ill, and she was coming to the end of her life. This was in 2011, but I do remember listening to the sounds and thoughts, and there was something about the space in between the sounds, and then the space in between the thoughts, and that you're not just your thoughts. It was just so helpful. I thought, yeah, there really is more to it, and this is as deep as the ocean, really.
Mm. Great. Thank you.
I think for me, it's difficult to pinpoint a particular moment. Before I started the Finding Peace in a Frantic World, if you said to me you were going to be a meditator, I would have said, absolutely no way. I'm not that type of person. But then, right from the start, doing Finding Peace in a Frantic World, I found that I could go with the practices. And I think the one that actually struck me most was the body scan. I just thought that was a really interesting way of being present and in the moment and taking your thoughts out of your head into your body. And that really helped to steady me. So that was the one thing that I could say really struck a chord with me.
Mm-hmm.
And mine was the use of the breath to soothe and calm the nervous system. But I think even more than that, because this is from a person who can't sit still for a second, was the fact that you could be still, you could find that peace, that stillness. And it was fine to do that as well. It wasn't being self-indulgent. It actually was okay to do that. That peace helped me make better decisions and wiser responses to life as well. So I would say that was probably the main thing I learned from the first course that I did.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I wonder if you could say how you bring those perspectives on mindfulness to the work that you do through the Little Company of Calm, and maybe say a little bit about what you hope to bring to the world through the work that you do together.
I think it's to bring the benefits that we all found through mindfulness to a wider audience as possible. And for us in Sunderland, that's very much also around making our teaching and our activities and courses accessible to people from all walks of life, and also making them affordable as well, so that economic status isn't a barrier for people. So we work very much within our community as well as online and in the region. And we work in community centres. We work with our local carers centre, the Sunderland Bangladesh International Centre. We work in nature as well with Durham Wildlife Trust and others, to have the double power of mindfulness and nature working together. Personally, going back to my teaching, I build mindful self-compassion into everything I do. I try and think carefully about my language too, and making mindfulness accessible by how I explain. I think we all very experiential teachers as well. We do very practical activities and courses, because personally I think people learn better when they're experiencing it for themselves.
Liz has summed it up really well. Last week, I delivered a session at the Salvation Army for the homeless, and I went in, and there was 4 guys, and they hadn't done mindfulness meditation before, and yet with the calm resonated for them. I felt so rewarded by that experience because I felt there was a sense in the room that these qualities were possible.
I think for me, it's always important to be authentic as a teacher. So you show up well prepared, but you're also taking account of the needs of the group. And it's trying to set the group up as well so they feel comfortable and relaxed. So often part of our sessions are teas and coffees, which are really important in terms of building community and making sure it's as comfortable and relaxed as possible. The other thing for me would be that we are open to to new ways of doing things. We're open to learning. One of the areas I'm particularly interested in is mindful movement. I've developed over the years a particular interest in Qigong. So I'm always quite keen to incorporate movement into the sessions, even with people with limited abilities and restrictions.
It feels like you're on a bit of a mission to bring this work to the community, particularly communities who maybe wouldn't normally have access to something like this, either financially or culturally.
Yeah.
Is that a way of summing that up, do you think?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
One, yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to hear more about your teaching, but just to go back a little bit, I wonder if you could say something about your backgrounds before mindfulness and how they have contributed to your teaching practice. Liz, I know you were a school teacher in the past. I guess that may have some influence.
Yeah, I was an English teacher in a secondary school for only 4 years. However, I think I learned so much. I probably don't have to use as much discipline in the classroom now as I did when I was teaching teenagers either. But when you have a class of 30 people in front of you, you've got more or less the whole of humanity in front of you, different backgrounds, different personalities. And I think that was equally as important in my learning. And my grammar improved a lot as well when I was an English teacher to help with marketing and things like that. But I worked with the guys here at Sunderland City Council in housing. So working again in communities that were more deprived and regenerating from the ground up, and that's influenced the mission of the company. Also, when I was in my 20s, I travelled around the world and I was exposed to lots of different cultures, meditation through different religions and practices. I am also a Christian, so I was used to prayer, but I was probably too young to really appreciate it. But now, as an old person looking back, I still do remember those temple visits, the feeling of peace and calm, the gentleness of the people there as well. So that has influenced me later in life.
That's Joe and Andrew. Be lovely to hear about your past careers and how they might have come to influence the work that you do.
Okay. I left school at 16 and worked for 4 years before I went to college. And then I did a degree in social sciences, which included politics and psychology. So there was always that kind of interest in people and how they operated. And then when I left my degree, for the first time in my life, I actually started to think a little bit more seriously about what I wanted to do. And I was interested in education, training, and employment. And this idea of a careers advisor came up, and I thought, that's interesting. That'll kind of blend these things together. So I did a careers guidance course, and then most of my life I was in careers advice and guidance. That kind of interaction with young people and looking at their motivations. And then later on in my career, I kind of by accident got into management. I never thought it would be for me, but found that I actually enjoyed supporting the younger members of staff and helping them to develop. And I think that's one of the things I have carried forward, trying to understand, help support people and help develop them. And then my last job in the council was in early intervention services. That gave me much more of a greater insight into the issues within communities and the complexities within people's lives. Like Liz, I'm also practicing Christian, so we wouldn't call it meditation, it would be more contemplation. Did come relatively easy to me. And I've always been broad minded and open to appreciate other philosophies, other religions. So that is also how I try and sort of carry things forward.
Thank you, Andrew.
My career, I suppose you could divide it into two halves. The first half, I was working with languages, teaching and translating. The teaching is clearly a direct link to what we're doing today, helping people understand and making progress. The translation is, translating ideas to make them more accessible. So it's making things easier to grasp and to understand. And then I became an advice and guidance worker, working in that service with young people who weren't in education or employment or training. And there was that one-to-one work to help them take a step. There was definitely equivalent to the kind of things we're doing now. And at the time, I was lucky that Sunderland Council had this non-redundancy policy, and I was matched to a post as a coach. And that was, of course, one-to-one work. So there was a direct link there with what I'm doing now. So it all feels to lead to this, like the different streams eventually lead to the ocean, maybe you could say. But this is where I am now. Enjoying myself being a mindfulness teacher.
Yeah, it comes across very clearly that you are all very socially minded and community focused, which is a lovely way of saying mindfulness, because I think sometimes it's seen as an individual pursuit. Yes, you're focusing on helping individuals, but you're also focusing more broadly on societal issues. And this is some form of intervention that you hope will tackle some of these issues. Is that a fair thing to say?
There are quite a lot of health inequalities in Sunderland, and mental health is, quite prevalent here. So there's
Yeah.
work to be done.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I'd really like to now get into your teaching practice in more detail, if possible. But I'd love to hear how you see each other as teachers. I wonder if you could comment on each other, just to say how you see each other as teachers of mindfulness.
Who wants to start with that one? I think with Andrew, there's this stability which relates to the resilience that I mentioned before. No matter what happens, Andrew will not get flustered. He brings a lot of authenticity, doesn't pretend to be anything that he's not. And those qualities do come through in a really nice way. And with Liz, there's always as a brightness comes into the room, an injection of enthusiasm and lightness, and there's always kindness. You never have to worry about getting anything wrong at all. She'll always smile about it.
Absolutely endorse what Joe says. And Liz keeps us both right as well. She's the organizer. And that is very much apparent in her teaching as well. Extremely well organized, very thoughtful, very inclusive as well. I'm not surprised Liz got into loving kindness because it is Liz. She's very kind and thoughtful to how we operate as an organization. In terms of Joe, if it wasn't for Joe, I would never have been where I am in terms of taking up mindfulness to start with. It was the way Joe approaches the teaching that's really quite inspirational. Again, he's somebody who always sits and thinks it through, always very well prepared. When we're co-teaching, and Joe's delivering the practice, it's great. You can sit back and relax and just enjoy whatever it is. You know it's going to be good. It's going to be worthwhile.
Well, I think the first thing I've got to say is I like to think of Andrew as our anchor, and that no matter what's going on in the company or around us, Andrew gives us that sense of calm and steadiness, and it's always with his lovely smile and twinkle in his eyes. Andrew is also very organised, and sometimes me and Joe have great ideas. Andrew can bring us back to where we should be. Andrew also works in one of our most deprived areas in Sunderland, and he has a real gentleness with the people. He builds up great relationships with them at the same time as delivering the mindfulness, and hats off for that. Moving on, Joe is inspirational, but I think what I would say is he also doesn't see just how many people he's helped, how many people he's inspired. Joe is reflective, he's thoughtful, and entrepreneurial is probably not the right word, but he has great ideas for the company, and he's not afraid. I'm more the one who sees the risks and pulls us back. But what I've learned from Joe is you've got to be more experimental in a business like ours. Joe's also gentle-natured, motivational and inspirational.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, likewise.
I hope that's been nice hearing from each other about each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen normally, Michael.
No.
It doesn't happen at
Yeah.
all, actually. Yeah.
Well, it's an exclusive on this podcast.
Yes.
Excellent. So, I wonder if you could say something about how you develop motivation for teaching mindfulness. Are you inspired by any other teachers that you see?
Joseph Goldstein, probably still my biggest influence as a teacher. Chris Cullen is brilliant. And also listening to other teachers, like my yoga teacher. I've been following her for easy 10, 11 years now. And so I get little snippets from her as well.
In terms of teachers, the lads know this, it's Tara Brock. I listen to her sometimes daily, but also in the more immediate world, my yoga teacher, Elaine, I get a lot from her. And Joe, we've got an online meditation called Streams of Calm. I listen to that most days and learn a lot from Joe on that. I do think retreats are important. We were at your retreat the back end of last year, and it did make me realise it's something that is very beneficial to your own teaching. It was great.
Fantastic.
It's lovely to have you there.
It takes a bit of an effort sometimes to commit to that. But when you do it, you wonder why I don't do this more often, because it was so good. I find that when I'm delivering a course, it's really helpful for me to get into whatever the teachings are on that program. I'm also influenced by some of the people Joe and Liz mentioned. Just finished Ruby Wax's book, which I find really interesting because I think she makes mindfulness, and particularly the neuroscience side of it, very interesting, very accessible. But like Liz, I normally listen to Tara Brack once a week. I always find her very calming.
Lovely. Perhaps based on those influences, what do you think is one of the best qualities you need as a teacher of mindfulness and meditation?
Ooh. That's a hard one.
I think it's important to embody the principles and values of mindfulness. And I think it's more what you're not doing as well, that you are there to guide people rather than to fix things for them. So knowing also when to pull back as well.
So something about holding space for others and embodying the practice.
Yeah, again about showing kindness to other people, but also when you do something incorrect, that you're embodying that by not beating yourself up, but maybe sharing that with people and explaining your response to it. And I think it's knowing your group as much as you can, but also being able to change and be flexible, because what you're trying to do is to meet the needs of the people who are there with you.
Yeah, and just to stay with you for a little bit, Liz, what would you say is an area of growth for you? It sounds from what your colleagues have said that you perhaps already embody those qualities that you've talked about, but is there an area in your teaching that you think would enhance the work that you do?
Yeah, there's a couple of areas. I'm becoming more and more interested in neuroscience and mental ill health particularly, but also positive psychology. So that is more looking at the theory and some of the science behind what we do. And the other one is to pull myself away from my dependence on Tara Brock and experiment with other teachers. So to have probably more of an open mind to go and try different teachers and different experiences.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. And to Andrew and Joe, what do you think are one of the most important qualities to have as a teacher of mindfulness? And if you want to mention an area of growth in addition to that, that would be wonderful.
I like the qualities of gentleness and also fallibility, where you're able to make mistakes and be really balanced about it. I still have this self-critical vein, but every teacher who I've admired on the path have this quality acceptance of the perfection of non-perfection. It just gives you this sense of release. But in terms of development, it's always stepping back and giving yourself a bit of a pat on the back and that's all right, mate, you're doing okay. And it's lovely when you hear other people saying it as well, of course, like we've already had today.
Do you think there's something about busting the myths about mindfulness teachers, in the sense that sometimes people have perceptions of people who teach mindfulness? Maybe they expect them to be deeply wise and perfect. Is there something about just showing those basic human qualities? Does that put people at ease, for example?
Absolutely. I'm always very hesitant to say that I'm a mindfulness teacher because immediately it feels like you're setting yourself up there. Oh, this is the calm person. So I'm always reticent about that. As long as it's mindfully done, it can really bring value to have that confidence to be able to model and not be too reticent about it.
Thank you, Joe. Andrew?
Yes, I wish we could live these really serene, mindful lives all the time. So we're definitely a work in progress. I also find that it's important to be open and learn from the group as well. They can often teach you lots of things. And also really thinking about mindfulness in the context of people's busy lives and understanding the challenges, knowing that there are lots of other important things as well going on in their lives, and being aware of any health issues that people have. One of the things I deliberately try and do, and it goes back to one of my early teachers at Oxford who said less is more at times. And I find personally that some of the people I listen to sometimes talk too much. It's nice in meditation for me personally to be guided, but also to have periods of silence when you can just be in the moment without somebody constantly guiding you through a process. So I have lots of things that I would like to do, probably will never ever get round to it. But certainly I've always been interested in the neuroscience side of it. That's always fascinated me. And in terms of the business, I would like to develop my own skills in Qigong. I have practiced it for 3 or 4 years now, but I think I would like to explore that further.
And what do you think we could learn from Qigong as mindfulness teachers?
The idea of integration, mind, body, and spirit, and breath. The idea of preventative medicine by doing things like Qigong, you're preventing ill health in many ways. Practices that are generally accessible to lots of the population, even with limited mobilities.
And I think also for people who are a little bit hyperactive, it's a really accessible form of mindfulness.
Yeah, it's not always easy for people to sit for long periods of time. It is lovely to mix it up with some movement, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Just add some balance. You mentioned about neuroscience. How important is having an understanding of neuroscience for when you teach mindfulness to different populations?
The neuroscience is saying that the mind is constantly predicting what's happening next, again, without us realizing. I couldn't go too much scientifically into the neuroscience. It'd be great when we do more research on that.
And do you think the participants that you work with benefit from some translation of the neuroscience to help them understand what's happening within their experience?
Yes, I think I would describe deeper mindfulness as quite a revelation for people. There were certain phrases. There was one particular one, and it's no action needed right now. Might seem a million miles from day-to-day living, but actually it can really resonate and make a difference to us as teachers, but very much to the participants as well.
Yeah. So for the layperson, how would you describe no action needed? And how does that relate to neuroscience, would you say?
no action needed right now, is when you just step back and get more of a realization of how things are. And then you can come back to that feeling of calm, of steadiness. And that phrase comes in, no action needed right now. And it's lovely because there isn't.
And because your body's getting prepared for action as well. So you're given the permission to stand down the troops in your body.
That's
and,
it. Stand the
yeah,
troops down.
yeah.
Pull
Wow.
back from that impulse for reactivity. There's nothing immediate that needs to happen. So you can take the necessary time to recalibrate. Just let the nervous system calm back down again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just going back to your question, I have a Friday group. It's yoga, qigong, and mindfulness. And the people who come tend to be older people with mobility issues. And to begin with, I did simple meditations to help them relax. But they are interested in the neuroscience now, and they are very appreciative. And we have some good discussions. It's a bit like when you're driving a car. You don't need to know the what's under the bonnet necessarily, but I think it does add if you do understand the workings of the car as well.
Yeah, that's a nice metaphor. Is there anything else any of you would like to say about your teaching practice, your pedagogies, your approaches that we haven't explored so far?
The only other thing I would add, Michael, is we've developed a mindfulness in nature program, and we have done a couple of programs at Elmore Country Park, and there's a really good park manager there. Anthony will come into some of our sessions and he'll talk about nature and the birds and the flora and the fauna, and it just adds something to the session. So it's having that kind of open mind to be able to draw in resources where it's appropriate.
Lovely. So we've explored your teaching practice. I think it's going to be really helpful for people to listen to the way you approach things. I'd just like to now move on to thinking about the future and how you see the field of mindfulness and meditation playing a part in society. How would you like society to look from a mindfulness perspective, maybe in 20, 30, 50 years, or even 100 years? Do you have a vision?
I would like it to be more, I don't know if mainstream's the right word, but that it becomes something like yoga, that everybody knows what it is and quite a lot of people practice it. That mindfulness isn't a word to be afraid of by some people as being either too complex or too hard to do.
I would be very optimistic about how things will move forward in terms of mindfulness, that it will become more widely accepted. This notion of mindfulness being a workout for the mind, like you would go to the gym or do some other physical activity. And I think this idea of integrated, holistic lifestyles and mindfulness being part of that where it's appropriate. We've all got challenges in our lives, but it's more looking at how it can be a support to anybody throughout their lives, not just for people who've got particular mental or physical disabilities.
So a preventative strategy so people can maintain their lives as best as possible, and so they don't get into that space of mental ill health or physical health. And Joe, do you have a vision for society?
And there's one thing that comes to mind. The UK Parliament got into mindfulness, and I went for a visit in the summer, and the person giving us a tour around. When I said what I did, and she said, "Are you aware that we have this mindfulness set up here?" And she explained they have regular sessions there, and I think for me, that's really important. If you have somebody who's already interested about the possibility of mindfulness, then there's a much better chance of it being established in that organisation, which has the ripple effect. If we can get that in more organisations and spread more through the country at different higher levels, then I think we've got a better chance as a human race.
Yeah, once it gets into the corridors of power or to the higher levels of organizations, then those people can have quite a strong influence on the culture of their organizations, whether it's political or not. I think that seems to be what you're saying. Yeah. Thank you for those comments. Some hopeful visions there for mindfulness in the future. To close, I've got some quick fire questions. First of all, do you have a favorite poem or reading or quote?
There's one I use when I'm teaching mindfulness in nature, and it's W.H. Davies. What is this life if so full of care? We have no time to stand and stare.
Right.
That's a good one.
Do you want to? Yeah, Rumi, the Guest House, which is in Frantic World and brought in with MBSR. And it's about, is it entertaining all the guests, the difficult and the spitefulness or whatever the words are? It's like you're not to banish them, but you accept.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Good
That,
one.
yeah.
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 And the one that kind of springs to mind is Mary Oliver and Wild Geese.
I've just reread a book called Wintering, which I read at this time of year, and that's helpful in teaching. And wintering is a metaphor for when you're going into depression, but it's also about an appreciation of the season that we're in already.
Next question. If a student looked back in 20 years' time, what would you hope they'd say they'd learned from you?
I would hope that they would say something like, he made me think.
And I was going to go a bit more radical and say they've changed my life, because I think
Very good.
mindfulness has changed my life and the way I live it.
Yeah, that person helped me give myself a bit more space, a bit more slack, a bit more kindness. Get in touch with what's important.
Great. What advice would you give someone considering becoming a mindfulness teacher? If you were to give advice or guidance.
Yeah. I would say it's for the long term.
Yeah.
I would say it's for the long term. And if it resonates with you and you're able to, in your own way, express it to somebody else, maybe that's good enough.
I would add to that and say embrace the challenges of teaching. Yeah.
And I would say also that it can be very enjoyable, but like Andrew said, there will be bumps on the way. I think what's important is to find fellow mindfulness teachers for your journey, and to be aware that the influence that you can possibly have over people's lives for the better. And that will be the motivation behind it.
Yeah. Super. So just one last question. Where can people go to find out more about the work that you do?
The best place is to go to our website, which is www.tlcoc.co.uk, or Google the Little Company of Calm. We have social media pages, Facebook and Instagram, YouTube channel, or they can speak to a person as well if they want to get in touch.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and your shared endeavour together, which is wonderful to see. So really, really appreciate it. Thanks for partaking in this podcast.
Thank you.
Hope
so
to
much.
see you soon, Michael.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks very much. It's been really enjoyable.